We've got some disturbances running through the Dakotas and Minnesota, and in fact, one decent one that will bring some measurable snow across South Dakota and southern Minnesota. So let's go on and take a look. So we got a bit of a split flow pattern going on where we've got this jet stream further down to the south, and then we've got this one a little bit further to the north and more reinforced upper level winds coming in out of Canada as we put this into motion. You'll basically see what I mean as we go through the day on Tuesday and going on into Wednesday. You can see how that jet stream picks up just a little bit more. Now, Wednesday is kind of the day we're looking at for that snow to traipse across South Dakota and southern parts of Minnesota, out ahead of the stronger jet stream that kind of noses from west to east. Now that does move through fairly quickly, but on the backside of this we have another trough basically swinging through. Now that won't bring quite as much moisture along with it, but what it will bring will be this a little bit of a jet streak on the backside of this, with some colder air being pulled south out of Canada, and along with that jet stream as well, we're going to be getting a little bit some disturbances along with it, where we're going to be seeing some bouts of just some light snow coming across possibly northeastern parts of North Dakota and along parts of northern Minnesota as well as we go on into the weekend. Now to start Tuesday morning, we might actually have a little weak disturbance that moves mainly across North Dakota, bringing some light snow as it moves from west to east. This is 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. Around noontime, we can expect some of that snow, mainly north of I-94, probably more so north of US Highway 200, really. I mean, we're really looking at the northern half of North Dakota in particular. This is 6 p.m., and by that time, it just reaches the Red River Valley and kind of touches Minnesota. And by 9 p.m. and midnight, some light snow moving across northern parts of Minnesota. This is 3 a.m. on Wednesday, and 6 a.m. by that time, most of this disturbance has now moved on out. However, then we shift our focus down here across southern parts of Minnesota as that next storm system moves in. So we'll back that up just a little bit here at 3 a.m. Wednesday morning. Some light snow already beginning across southwestern parts of South Dakota. By 6 a.m. moves a little bit further eastward, just kind of crosses the Missouri River there by that point. 9 a.m. and noon, you can see how that again pretty much stays across South Dakota. Perhaps a little bit stronger burst of snow moving across central parts of South Dakota as well. So while most of it will be light, there is a possibility we'll have just a little core, kind of an area, smaller area that might be producing some moderate snow for a little bit, reducing that visibilities as it moves from west to east. This is 3 p.m. And by 6 p.m. now, of course, that snow moved across a good portion of southern parts of Minnesota. And along with that, maybe there's that possibility that it might transition a little bit over to rain, or perhaps even some freezing rain in there across southeast parts of Minnesota. So roads becoming slippery perhaps in some areas, particularly across southeastern Minnesota as we get to about 6 p.m. on Wednesday, and a little bit further back again, perhaps just a little bit of a moderate streak in from southeastern parts of South Dakota into southwest Minnesota as well. Now moving this along, you can see how quickly it moves. This is 9 p.m. Perhaps a little bit stronger band that just moved through Sioux Falls heading to Sioux City, Iowa. That rain and freezing rain line creeps just a little bit further to the southeast. A little more snow begins to push just a little bit further southeast as well. And by the time we get to midnight, most of these areas across South Dakota, the snow will have ended. It will end it across a good part of the Twin Cities. We're going to be left with the main area of snow across southeast Minnesota, perhaps some sleet or maybe some freezing rain still in the very, very far southeastern part of the state by this point. Once we get to 3 a.m. Thursday morning, most of that snow is really out of the region, and by 6 a.m. it is out of the remaining part of Minnesota. Now, I apologize, I didn't get a chance to create a graphic as far as where I think the best area of snow will be or how much accumulation, but I do have one model that I kind of like when it comes to predicting the amount of snowfall possible with this storm as it moves across, so we'll take a look at that. And here you can see the main path stretching basically right along I-90 from west to east. Really, that follows it quite well, almost where that main area is going to be. Generally, we're going to be looking again along that I-90 corridor, somewhere in that 2 to 4 range the way it's looking right now. You might have a few spots here and there, particularly obviously in the higher elevations of the Black Hills, which is typical, and perhaps as we get more into the central part of the state, might have a little bit higher amounts there as well, where we're going to be getting to 5, maybe 6 inches at max the way things are looking right now. As you get a little bit further east, you can see that snow totals begin to diminish as we get closer to that maybe 1 to 2 inch mark across southeastern parts of Minnesota. And again, particularly with some of these areas getting some rain or freezing rain, the snow accumulations will really drop off there. Now, where the cutoff will be for snow, no snow, looks to be like it's going to be just north of the Twin Cities, kind of up to that Summit, Millbank, south of Aberdeen, and then just kind of touching that Mobridge, Bison, Buffalo area on the north end of this storm system. And all this that you see further to the north here across North Dakota and Minnesota, of course, that's more associated with that first little quick system that moves across on Tuesday. So generally across North Dakota, more so across northern parts of North Dakota, I mean, most areas are going to struggle to get to an inch of accumulation, but some might see that. But otherwise, most areas will likely see less than an inch of accumulation with the snow that moves through Tuesday going on into Tuesday night. Now, once we move that system off to the east, we get another quick little system that begins to move in Thursday afternoon already. This is noon time frame. 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m. Now, at that point, at least according to this particular model, by 9 p.m. on Thursday evening, most of that snow will have moved on through South Dakota. Now, you're probably looking at another 1 to 3 inches out of this as it moves across later Thursday. So not a ton of snow, but just kind of adding on top of what you've already received on Wednesday. Then as we get into the weekend, here we've got these little impulses that kind of sweep out of the north. Here we are Friday afternoon around 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. Again, not a whole lot, somewhere in that 1 to 2 range possibly as these little systems move through. And then again, as we get into Saturday, perhaps just clipping the far northeastern part of Minnesota. So we have these little impulses that move through. Now on the other side of this, particularly as we enter the weekend, we're going to be seeing some gusty winds. This is Friday afternoon, where we're looking at gusts 30, 35, perhaps even 40 miles per hour. As we get to 6 p.m., it really begins to ramp up Friday evening, particularly across the Devil's Lake Basin area. Of course, as we get to the evening hours, the winds are going to diminish some, but still we're going to be looking at some drifting snow going into the overnight hours. And then Saturday afternoon begins to pick up again, 30, 35 miles per hour. And as you can expect, the roads will be drifting. You're going to have some reduced visibilities along with that. Going into the afternoon hours, Saturday afternoon again picks up a little more, particularly across Minnesota. And then as you go into the evening hour, Saturday night and into Sunday, those winds diminish. So again, be on the lookout for that blowing and drifting across North Dakota, northern Minnesota in particular, with those stronger winds where we could be gusting 30, 35, maybe even 40 miles per hour in some locations. So that's going to cause some travel problems as we enter that weekend time frame. All right, one more thing to do, and that's going to take a look at some high temperatures as we go through the week. Tuesday, most areas across northern North Dakota, northern parts of Minnesota are going to struggle to get above freezing, but as you get further to the south, look at this, folks, we're still looking at the upper 40s to near 50 across parts of South Dakota. But Wednesday, as that system moves through, the cooler temperatures will begin to dominate a little more. As you can see, those freezing temperatures start to slide to the southeast. Gone are the 50s. We're left with some mid to upper 40s across southeastern parts of Minnesota going in on Wednesday. But by that Thursday time frame, that frontal boundary completes its sweep across the region. Many areas are going to be struggling to get above freezing. In fact, as you get across the North Country here, high temperatures are only going to be in the teens, which also translates to Thursday morning starting off cold. So while the daytime high temperature is going to be a little cold, obviously we're going to start off cold as well across the north, with many areas below zero across northern parts of North Dakota and Minnesota. But by Friday, some of those temperatures begin to rebound already, with many areas across South Dakota getting above freezing once again, perhaps getting to near 40 across southwestern parts of South Dakota. But as we get to the north and to the east, those temperatures generally in the 20s for high temperatures. Saturday, those temperatures rebound just a little bit more, with areas across the northern half of our region generally in the 20s to near 30. And as you get a little bit further south, we're back into the 40s once again. Sunday should bring just a little bit of a cool down once more, as we got most areas into the 20s and around 30 degrees. As you get a little bit further north, we're looking at the mid to upper teens for high temperatures, but still not bad across the southwest, where we're still going to be looking at highs in the 40s. So the main thing, folks, is be mindful across parts of South Dakota throughout the day on Wednesday, and then as you start your day Thursday morning across southern parts of Minnesota, more than likely you're going to be seeing some at least lightly covered, snow-covered roads. So be mindful of those travel conditions going through the week. And then as we get into the weekend, we're going to be dealing with some gusty winds and little bursts of snow, some light snow, maybe an inch, perhaps two at the most across the northeastern parts of Minnesota. But more so, I think the winds going into the weekend will be more of the story, where that's going to be reducing those visibilities, blowing and drifting that snow around, and making some slippery travel conditions. So as we head into the weekend, we'll watch that just a little bit closer, but do keep that in mind if you plan on traveling anywhere. All right, everybody, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and hit the little bell button that goes along with it. That way you'll be notified when I upload another video just like this to keep you informed for the weather across the Dakotas and Minnesota. And at the very least, just hit that old thumbs button up as well. That helps get this channel noticed by more people looking for weather information just like you. Okay, for Region Weather Live, I am meteorologist Brad Warner. Everybody, have a good day.